Hi everyone. So happy 4th of July. Oop, not good. There we go. Happy 4th of July to all of you. So, what does freedom mean to you? So I was looking back on past years of teaching. Now I've been teaching yoga for 12 years now, something like that. So I went back to one of my old journals, old and ratty, completely filled up, of every class I've taken, every theme that I've done in classes, so much stuff. In fact, when I was really being good with my blog, I was writing a blog a week. I didn't repeat a theme for 2 years, and I did a theme weekly. So I have all my themes in here. So I was looking at what I did for 4th of July or Freedom that particular year, and then I went back in this notebook, which was my more recent themes of what I did last year. And I didn't look at this until after what I did today because I wanted to see if any of them really matched up. And then my teacher Eric posted something on Facebook that just put it all to shame. So it's funny how it evolves and you learn more every year. So in this one, what I did was that year I did a class, and I'm going to pull up the blog on my computer so I can read it a little bit to you guys. So I did a class which was themed with all bird poses. So freedom, feeling like you're flying, and I basically just talk more about the physical practice, about, finding that feeling of freedom. And, oh no, your screen is black. Can anyone else see me? Can everybody else see me? Drop a comment and let me know that you can see me because Jamie says she can't. Can everyone see me? Jamie, can you hear me? No? Okay. Oh, okay. You can see me. All right. I'm going to continue going, and I hope that it just works because I don't want to start again. So, what I was saying, that the first year that I was doing the physical themes, I was doing more talking about flying poses, bird poses, what that feeling of freedom feels like. And then I say in my blog, I put a quote about how you have to, let me see where it was here, how you have to basically let go so you can fly. You want to fly, you got to give up the shit that weighs you down. That was the Toni Morrison quote. So these are all very nice things, but none of it's really concrete and none of it's really that deep. So it was interesting to me to see that was a few years back. What year was that actually? I think it'll tell me. July 2014, so 3 years ago. All right, so that's that. So then, fast forward, last year, when I was only a couple months fresh out of going to Costa Rica and studying with Eric Pascal, so I had a lot more insight at that point. So I talked a lot about last year about how we're all in prison, right? We're all in prison, basically. So finding inner freedom is truly freedom, right? Nothing else really matters. So my notes here say the difference is the awareness, right? So the prisoner knows they're in prison, but we are not aware when we're walking around that we are all in prison. So once you become aware of that, that's the first step towards enlightenment, right? It's much easier said than done, but that is the first step. And so the good news about that is that you can control yourself, right? You can control you and this inner freedom. It's just very, very hard to do it. So, and I wrote here an example, which I haven't, of my daughter, which is also, I try to bring in some personal examples when I'm teaching in my classes, and I haven't actually talked to her about this in a while. She's just turning 6, and I should get back to talking to her about it because I wrote here, you are always you, and that's something that I used to say to her when she would get upset about things, like she wanted to go to a friend's house, but then the friend would get sick, and she would cry and freak out. And I would try, even at that young age, to tell her, I know you have this desire, you want to see your friend, and it doesn't work out, but what's really important, what matters is that you are still you, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. It's very hard for a child to understand that, but I thought even just telling her that at a young age would be good to instill in her, right? So I did, and I haven't done that in a while. So again, it's always good to have some notes to refer back to. And so basically, my class last year was like, our only job in life is to break out of this inner prison, right? This jail that we have, and find inner freedom. That's what enlightenment is all about. That's what freedom is really all about. So that was interesting. And then I also made some notes that when, bars go up, you become more imprisoned, basically, when you're judging other people, or when you don't get what you want, or sometimes when you even get what you want, which is something that Eric said, which I'll get back to, which is really interesting. So that was last year. So then this year I was teaching a class this morning, and I asked them, what's the first thing that comes to mind when they hear the word freedom or think of the word freedom? With no judgments, just what comes to mind. It could be financial freedom. It could be, literally our country's independence. It could be, freedom as in being retired, or freedom from your children. I don't know, whatever comes to your mind about freedom, and just what's the first thing that you're connecting freedom to. And I didn't say much until we got more into our physical postures. We did some yoga practice, and then I said, what does freedom mean in your yoga practice? Does it mean that you feel, free in a pose? Does it mean that, you got this, arm balance, so you're like free, or you were able to stretch so far so you feel that freedom? What is freedom in your practice? And I just gave all sorts of examples that people might think. But then, in reality, what really is freedom is that you keep that even keel feeling, right? That nothing really matters. It doesn't matter if you get into that pose or if you don't get into that pose. That's what freedom is, right? So I talked more about that, trying not to be over elated when things are going your way, or super depressed when things are not going your way, because either way things change. If you allow yourself to get super elated over something that you can lose tomorrow, you get a job, you get a promotion, you're like, oh my God, and then something happens and you don't get that job, then what happens? You're in a depression, right? You're in a depression, something good happens, you're out of the depression. There's no stability there, and there's no freedom in that at all. You're just attaching your emotions to all these external things, and you'll never find your inner peace, right? Your inner freedom. So that's what I talked about in my class. You get the split, you don't get the split. That's the key. Who cares, right? It doesn't matter either way. You're happy and you're content inside no matter what. So we did some arm balancing, and again, who cares? If you get this crow pose, great. If you don't, great. And I say this as a hypocrite because, of course, when I'm in a class, I want to get those poses and I want to be the best and stretch the best and do this and everything else. But at the end of the day, I have to remember that that's really, not what is going to give me that personal freedom. So that was just a little bit of what I talked about today, trying to find that even keelness. I think right, give me a comment right here. Do you agree that that feels like it's pretty impossible to do at times? I think it is, for sure. When we get really excited about something, it's hard to not feel that. Like, I remember when I was opening my studio and I was painting and everything, and I was starting to feel a little bit excited, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have my own studio, I'm painting. And then I was like, you know what? There's going to be days that I know I'm going to be cursing that I have this studio, right? I'm going to be like, I hate being an owner, because sometimes, right, we all have days like that, or like this is so much work, or there's going to be days where clients will piss me off, or whatever it is. And I sat there and I knew that, and I toned it down a little bit, and I'm like, you know what? I'm happy, I'm content, but I'm not so attached to that I'm, would be devastated if something were to happen and I couldn't have it anymore. It's great, I love it, it's wonderful, but, that's where the freedom is, right? And again, much easier said than done. This is why people that have all the money and all the resources in the world aren't happy. They don't have inner freedom, right? Or why some people that have nothing, that are poor, do have inner peace and inner freedom. So to me, that's what freedom really is, and that's what I talked about in my classes. And mostly all of this I've learned from Eric. So today he posted this, and I'm going to leave you guys with this because, he's just so freaking amazing. If you don't follow him, please go follow him. Eric Paschal, Paskel. He's amazing. This is what he said today. All right, let me find it for you. And it's just so funny because, here I am thinking like I did this. I really felt like this was the best class I'd taught in a while. I was really focused and I brought my point across really well. And I was like, oh, that was such a great class. Like I feel like I really taught something and like, got it across. And then after the class, I read his thing and I was like, oh, God, maybe next year when I look back at all these notes, mine will be even more powerful than it was today, right? So I'm going to read you what he wrote. So he wrote, Independence Day. Who is independent from their ego? We still live in a country where our pursuit to find our own happiness remains intact. Sure, there are prejudice and problems, but none are impediments to finding our ultimate truth. Yet, who is looking for that? Instead, we keep looking to improve the world so it caters to our egos, all the while believing that when the world is the way we like it to be, we will be free. And then he's talking about a quote below. The quote below, which I'll read you, is more foreign to us than a Martian. It is incomprehensible to think of not thinking of ourselves. Yet, the independence we crave, we search for, comes from saying, to hell with myself. I wish I was able to do this. I feel imprisoned every day by the awareness of my selfishness. I do too, by the way. So, as much as I'd like the president to be blah, 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 and love for the state to be blah, 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 and really love for the yoga world to be blah, 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 I am blah, 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 and realize that at least. Even if all of that changed, I'd be the worst, because getting what I want only makes my ego bigger and the attachments that come with it more powerful. So, for today, let's appreciate we are in a country that we have a space for personal growth. Let's be thrilled about everything we don't like, all the fears we have, and hope they come true. For if they do, we will be forced to finally grow up and live independently of all that bullshit. May it all crash today. When it does, may we all soar to our highest heights, finding our freedom within us that no one and nothing can bring to us or take away. So powerful. And the quote that he quoted is a quote from Edward Carpenter. And it says, "Never before could I have believed it, but I see it all now. There is no happiness unless you have clean, dropped thinking about yourself. But you must not do it by halves. While even there is at least a grain of self left, it will spoil it all. You must just leave it all behind and vouchsafe the personality and mind that much sympathy as to any stranger. No more, no less." That's so powerful, right? So I love how he took this about, the selfishness that we all have and talked about that in regards to freedom. So there's so many ways that you can spin it and ways that you can look at it, but truly, that's inner freedom, right? Is having no attachments and truly getting rid of the self. So lot easier said than done. If this was easy, we would all be enlightened and there would be world peace, right? But it's impossible and it's hard, but awareness is that first step. So when we start, really examining our thoughts and understanding that we are selfish, we love selfishly, we think selfishly, and we attach all our emotions to our desires, then we can start being better people. So that's what freedom is to me. And I hope that you guys all had a great 4th of July. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys